Ah, yes, wonderful track there. My name is Tall Biscuit, and you're listening to Blue Please here on WoW Radio. Now, just a quick reminder, you got about 15 minutes to submit your topics for the Illusion of Choice. It's gonna cost a lot of money to fix. Yeah, you can pick the topic for the last 15 minutes of the show. Yes, you can. Email themurloc@gmail.com. That is themurloc@gmail.com. There is no K in Murloc. Next email I get to that, well, it won't get to me, because that's not the email address. So yeah, you suck. Right. Okay. No more questions about Project Arcanist Belt. If you have a question about Project Arcanist Belt, it will no doubt be answered on arcanistbelt.myguildhost.com. And that is all. That's it. No more questions about Arcanist Belt. It's all on that website. Go check it out. I can bet that your question is answered there. I'll be willing to put money on it. Now, let's talk about something else. WoW, for a very, very long time, has been accepted as a relatively acceptable game for teenagers and, sometimes under 13s. Which is kind of unusual, considering the entire game is based around slaughter. Mass slaughter. Have you ever actually sat down and wondered just how much death and suffering you have inflicted in this game? I mean, it's not even, meaningful death and suffering, either. It's like, kill 50 of these for epics. I mean, have you sat down, really, and thought about it? And I have a copy of WoW here. I've got a WoW box here, and I see the British rating, which is the PG standard. PEGI, what it's called. Now, this game is PEGI rated 12 plus. Yeah? 12 plus. Which, quite frankly, to me is a little bit astounding. Because everything in this game is about killing people. I mean, it's not just people either, it's animals. Animals, babies, all sorts of things. Like, wow, this game is violent. You know what freaks me out about it is that you barely realise it either. You barely even register the amount of death you are inflicting. I have an issue with, games like Grand Theft Auto. I feel a little bit guilty. And any game with a morality system, I always feel way too guilty to do the bad thing. If I can save the guy and, make him walk off into the sunset with his girl in arm and have a happy ending, then I will do it. I will go out of my way. Even if it involves 20 hours of fetch quests, I will do it. I'm just a big wuss, but that's just the way of it. And it sort of feels bad when you kill a character that you know really hasn't done anything wrong. And you go along into WoW, and it's made a trivial matter. I find the idea that farming, the term farming, think about it. You think, well, okay, yeah, farming, pretty menial labor, that kind of thing. But the harvest that we are reaping is in blood! Literally. Think about it. Just think about how much you've killed. Now, this actually brings up a relatively interesting point as to just how suitable is WoW for younger players. A lot of younger players are playing WoW, sadly probably a few too many, considering the number of tells that I get every now and then. How you get munt? BlizzCon. What BlizzCon? How you get munt? Oh my god. I want to stab you in the face over the internet. Now that's how violent WoW has made me. How suitable is it really for children? It's a point that should be addressed, I feel. I mean, personally, I'm not a person that's really bothered by violence in games at all. I don't believe that violence in games, generally speaking, I think there's probably a few notable exceptions, really has any influence on kids whatsoever. It's like, hey, heightened aggression. Well, yeah, anything that's competitive is heightened aggression. Always. The most fights you ever get in school are not over Grand Theft Auto, they're over football. If you get competitive, you have heightened aggressive tendencies, and they sometimes can be taken out on people. That's just the way of it. And to be honest, growing up, kids get aggressive. That's just the way of it. They were aggressive before video games, they'll be aggressive long after video games have become a distant memory in the world of media. That's not what really bothers me about it. I think just such a casual attitude towards slaughter. It's mass slaughter as well. I have a problem with killing that doesn't really mean anything. It's not something that's going to stop me playing WoW and farming whatever. It's just I switch it off. I've become desensitized to the casual nature of the violence in games like WoW. And I mean desensitized to the point where I don't care. I mean, I don't care at all. I don't feel the slightest pang of regret for killing whatever it is. And it's not just like demons and creatures of the Underdog? No, that wouldn't work. Underdark anymore. It's not just that. It's like killing the mothers of Wolvar and then putting the cubs in sacks and bringing them back. You might as well just have, let's just go all the way. Tie the sacks up with rocks and throw them in the river. And replace the pups with kittens. There was a mention in a thread, actually, and I think that some of the points made, usually this kind of thing I dismiss as a silly post, but I think some of the points were relatively valid. That some of the stuff in Wrath is very, very, very dark. I mean, really dark and really violent, and definitely not really deserving of this 12 plus rating. And Wrath is 12 plus. At least it is in this country anyway. Just the same as WoW was. And I think that actually it needs to be pointed out that it's not the same game anymore. It's not the colourful, cartoonish violence. It's actually something a little bit darker now. And that's fine, because, as an adult, I'm quite capable of managing my emotions / feelings, and after I've been farming for 3 hours, the only reason I want to kill somebody is because I'm horrifically bored, not because I've been influenced by the violence in the video game. But I think it is worth noting, and certainly pointing out on the box, that some of the quests in Wrath are pretty nasty. You've got a quest on the Horde side where you let loose rats in order to eat corpses. There's one where you blow up a mammoth with explosives and see pieces of meat fly everywhere. There's one which involves torturing some guy, and I believe you can actually go back and do it later just for fun, for no apparent reason whatsoever. No joke. This isn't just the killing of random monsters. These are actual human-shaped. They make human noises. Have Blizzard gone too far with it? I don't think so. I think it's important for the development of the storyline and the development of the game world into something of a more serious nature that this kind of violence is put into the game. In fact, I'd say that this kind of questing is more beneficial to the suspension of disbelief. It's better to deepen and mature the storyline than the other questing. Just like, kill 6 Snormus is, it's the same kind of thing we've always been doing, but if you can read a good lore explanation for torturing this guy with a red-hot poker, then I think that actually helps the storyline. It helps tie the story out together, and it makes it feel like it's more of a war again. The thing is that you try and perpetuate this idea that there's a war going on in WoW, and we know it's a very static world. It's not particularly dynamic in any real respect. More so now with the phasing technology, but really it's binary. It's a binary system. Something's either happened and you're in the phase, or it hasn't and you're not in the phase, and that's just the way of it. It's good, don't get me wrong, phasing's really cool, but it's still a particularly static world. And so the way they've got to progress it is to tell the story. Now, if that story is pretty much as lame as it was in the original WoW, and let's face it kind of was, really, wasn't it? What was the story in WoW? Well, I don't know the lore of WoW particularly well, but in my experience, leveling up to 60 is like, okay. I am going through various areas killing stuff for no real reason. There are trolls here, I should kill them. There is an instance here, the trolls may be inside the instance, I should kill them. No particular reason, but they're probably up to no good. Well, they are. Well, that's what they were. They were up to no good. Everybody's up to no good. We get to 60. The Dark Iron Dwarves are up to no good. Oh, it's Ragnaros. The Farian's up to no good. Oh, it's Blackwing Lair. The Karaji are up to no good. Oh, it's AQ40. Kel'Thuzad is up to no good. Hey, it's Naxxramas. And it goes on and on and on. It really does. I think actually the only one where somebody wasn't up to no good was Karazhan. They pretty much just wanted to be left alone. But no! They had to go in there and get their epics. Everyone else was up to no good. That's the basis of the story. Protagonist, or is it antagonist? Yes. Protagonist goes into antagonist's lair, who is up to no good, and stops them. I think it's important that the storyline matures a bit past that. And if violence is what's required, pretty much, it's a pretty sickening violence to some degree, in order to progress the story, that's fine. But it is a little bit telling of the story. It's a bit telling of the storytelling abilities. That's a really bad sentence, but whatever, we'll roll with it anyway. It's a bit telling of the storytelling skill of Blizzard that's really seems to be the only way they can tell their stories. It's kind of disturbing, really. I would like to see more. Wrath has done a good job of expanding the story arc and expanding the way that story is integrated into questing. And I think it's very important that it continues to do that. If some of it involves the ultra-violence, then that's fine. The thing is, this is what you got to bear in mind. Violence becomes less effective the more you use it. It's not so evocative, or provocative, in fact, whichever you prefer to use. Both work. It doesn't bring emotion into it. It doesn't provide a profound nature to the story if the entire story is about wanton slaughter, especially if that wanton slaughter involves drops. It's like, what are you, a glorified taxidermist? You are Peter's ultimate enemy. You are slaughtering all these animals, or you're just a genocidal maniac. Everyone in WoW is a genocidal maniac. Which seems rather disturbing. I would really not want to live in this world. And that causes a problem when you're trying to suspend your disbeliefs. Like, this world is not a real world. It's not even close to being a fantasy world. Because all it involves is death. And it's not even good death. I mean, we're not talking about 40k here. We're not talking about Warhammer 40,000 levels of ultra-violence. We're just talking about random slaughter. That's all it is. Everything gets killed over and over and over again, and it's not even for a real reason. It's not even for survival. It's just for the sake of it. And doing that can harm the game. It really can. I want to see less killing, and the killing that does happen needs to be meaningful or dark or whatever. Have more of the torture quest, sure. Have more of the rats eating corpses quest. The blowing up mammoth quest, okay, it was a little bit campy, but it worked. And have less actual wanton slaughter and farming for items and stuff like that, because you can't have a good story involving violence and warfare when there is no good environment for that to happen in. Because everything's just kill, 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 and violence and death is just approached in a way that is so casual. It's like walking down to the corner shop to buy a sandwich in the morning. An exploded mammoth sandwich. My name is Total Biscuit. You're listening to Blue Please here on WoW Radio. Got a quick music break, and then we'll be right back with the illusion of choice. Yeah. Illusion of choice. I'll be right back after this, folks. You listen to Blue Please here on WoW Radio. Enjoy.